So this is a game review between Rafasakurai and Prakadoph. It's an even game, so we'll be talking about only even game moves. So let's start. Okay. So for the first few moves, as you can see, the ideas played here are not correct. When we want to be starting, we always want to be starting in any way that is approaching our opponent, in this manner or this manner for both sides. So try to make sure that you're approaching rather than actually playing on the sides, because then you create frameworks which tend to be something, if you don't know how to deal with, you will have a lot of trouble. Another thing is for white, if you do want to enclose, the better way to enclose would be this way. Always small knights move. We want to create concise, safe structures for ourselves that we are building off. So always remember, something that's weak, which is like a 4/4 stone that can easily be 3/3, we want to make sure that we're creating strong shapes. Yeah. So yeah, this is way too small. This is not a place that you want to play. You want to kind of play on the bottom side, right? Anything like this would be fine. Again, this is also way too small, right? What if I also try and take this side over here, right? If I'm getting approach in this direction, any Joseki in this manner allows me to, block white, and block white doesn't have a lot of eye space, and then this becomes a nice fight for black. Yeah. This is interesting, but it's not the best here. If you do want to do something, this would be better, right? This may be just too high, and if your opponent invades in the top, you will start to struggle. Again, backing off is fine here. Interesting ideas. This is a bit too deep. Your goal is to either invade over here or over here for points, maybe do some attachments to have stones in your opponent's area, because you can see your opponent has now invested a lot. What you can even think is, what if I also make moves over here, right? What if I can play this? But most likely your opponent will come in and invade. Maybe you can settle your area first and then you go into his area, seeing what develops. That's also a decent idea. But going in this deep is bad. This attachment is terrible. We don't want to attach to our opponent's weak stone this way. If you want to do an attachment, a kick here would be better, like this, so that your opponent now has to run in this manner, where you can also try to surround them and continue forward. So as you can see, white was given a lot of nice shape, just like this, as you can see, and now white just gets to live quite well. And here, best thing to do always is just connect. Don't descend to the first line, right? It's not we are not playing end game, so we don't descend to the first line. This is all decent. This is not the way to surround. If you want to surround, you kind of want to use a more further move. When our opponent's strong, we want to be enclosing them from a distance, because they have strength. They can push back, they can fight us, right? If our opponent's weak, then we can be able to be going closer, right? Yeah, as you can see, white is able to push and have some fight over here. So yeah, this is not a good exchange for black. For black here, the best thing is to continue forward and maybe either think about making a move over here to try and surround this group, maybe even peeping. There's a lot of different types of things that you can do. Doing this is not good, because you're trying to live in such a small area, right? Why are you trying to do that? Why are you allowing white's weak group to connect with something that could be stronger, right? We want to keep our opponent split. If our opponent has a weak group and we have something that's stronger, we want to use that strong group to make sure that opponent's group stays as weak as we can for as long as we can. Once it can't be done, we will move away and we play something else. So yeah, this is a bit too much. As you can see, you got punished for this, right? If you just want them to play a move, a simple move is like this. Always remember, simple move is always better than any move that's going to do try something fancy that you might have not read out fully. So yeah, you can see here, honestly, I would think about doing some cutting and like this, because I'm not too afraid of my opponent playing this, because I'm willing to take damage. So learning how to read when you can take some damage is very important. But as you can see, like, down white gets a nice wall where you get points, and these points are so small, and I don't like them. Right, we force ourselves to make those points. This is a good idea, trying to split, but a better way would be to try and approach our opponent from either direction. That would be a better idea, because now you can see you try to make such wide moves, and it's starting to feel a bit painful. Here, this is okay, but I would think about maybe even splitting my opponent, right? Because I invested a move here. What if I split my opponent into 2 pieces? Can I fight? That's an idea you can think about. What will my opponent do? What will happen next, right? Because in this variation, you can see you kind of make your opponent stronger. So you play this. I wouldn't think about doing that. I might even just play this, maybe, just to make this group way smaller, and then now play something in the center, or maybe invade over here, because this allows me to make this group really tiny while also getting a nice wall facing my wall that allows me to now take these points in center, right? By playing this, you kind of make your opponent stronger, and then now you try to reduce, which doesn't really work well for you, right? Okay, this is way too far from your stones and groups. You need to make sure that if you're playing away completely, then your goal is either to completely invade and live in your opponent's area, or your goal is to try and run away, right? Here, yes, you can try and run here, but this group is not really in danger, right? And these points are technically nobody's. In this moment, black would have to play a few moves, but you can still come in. So if both players are able to look at a certain area, that area is considered not good to care about. The area that you should care about is where your opponent has more points, or where you have more points. So then you would make the calculation of, okay, do I have more points than my opponent? What should I do in this situation? That kind of thing. So yeah, this is a decent idea. Your opponent didn't care. If your opponent had maybe made a move like this and you did this, I think your opponent will be quite fine, because these are a lot of points in the side. Actually quite a lot of points, and there's a lot of ways to reduce for black in this section. Interesting attachment. Yeah, this works understandably, but what if your opponent decides to fight in this situation? Maybe there is something that can be done, and the groups can be even split, like this, and then there's cut over here, and there's some stuff that can happen, and it becomes a huge thing that you have to think about. So that's why it is an interesting idea. It may work, but it's just that if you're trying to do something, it's always best to do from your own safety and then continue forward. That's why we don't want to try something that's gonna require us to read too much. We use reading as a tool, not as a crutch that we will purely use just for, okay, now we have to read, we have to figure out at all points, because it adds more stress to the situation. So yeah, so black does give white quite a nice structure. All this is okay. Yeah, but this is not good, because you kind of did the reduction, but now you're trying to just force your opponent to become stronger for not really the best reasons. You could try other moves which could allow you to like press on your opponent first, or maybe push them here, like, oh, I'm gonna cut you, or you don't want to be cut, I'm gonna like now go down, or maybe I can even threaten to cut you from here, and now I do this, and then there's more like I'm using both strengths to try and do something. right? Because when you have a wall, your wall is meant to attack. How do you attack? You try and threaten your opponent because you say, I'm not afraid, right? When you have a strong group, you have influence, you're less afraid because you have many ways to connect your stones. So your opponent will be more fearful of his weaknesses. So that's what you need to think about, quite importantly. Yeah, like making these specific points is not the best because these are very small points. Here black should have maybe either think about cutting, which can work, right? You can think about this like, oh, okay, now where is my opponent going? If he goes down here, I can do this, and if he tries to cut here, I have to go down, but then this becomes a fight, and now you can see that there is a possibility that you might lose the corner. So there is always going to be exchanges, so that's why that kind of place was supposed to be protected beforehand. So here, anyways, the best idea is always to just maybe just do this. You see, now you don't really lose much, right? Because the cut still doesn't work, and you've lost some area, some points, but you're still fine, right? This is something you can consider rather than continuing to go down to the line, and then now you see you have to protect yourself. You were taking end game points when you could have gotten the opportunity to play elsewhere if your opponent continues to play in an area that's already been destroyed, right? Now you see your opponent gets to come inside. So yeah, again, this is also a bit weird because you can do this and then this would be cut, right? Because it's white area, so this is weird. If you do want to come in, then this is the idea. But again, this is not the biggest part of the board. Now you have to always look at where is the biggest part of the board. This is a very small area because you can't, this is too strong. Where's the weaknesses for white? Maybe something over here, maybe even over here to try and decide to come in this way, or maybe a jump in over here that allows you to crawl on the second line. These are the kinds of things you want to think about, right? Yeah, as you can see, by doing this, white gave you a chance where you could have just easily connected back this way, right? But you chose to again descend down onto the first line and you lost the fight, right? Why was really smart in this manner. Again, for white, this is the best way to do it. If you want to go, don't descend downwards, descend towards the strength of your stone, because this allows you to try and come up with future weaknesses that can be used for other things, right? It helps you create RG. This kind of stuff, by going down, you might just help your opponent fix their issues. This is a bit weird. This is not that weak, so even thinking about pushing this way is a fine idea because you can take some damage, right? If you were to descend downwards, if they do this, then they won't be able to survive. So you can basically kind of connect yourself in this manner if you need to, or if you really do want to protect that point, then you just directly protect the point, right? Your opponent won't be able to hit you as hard, because then if they push, you can even protect the cutting point, because now in this manner you're kind of making sure that you are more stable, and then you are taking strength by losing a few points. But black decides to not push as hard, so yeah, basically gets the point. And again, here always just connect back. I think this is a mistake for both. If you do want to come to SDK, you need to learn to stop playing on the first line until all the areas have been decided, right? Again, like you can see, this descent, very terrible. Here you kind of can leave this alone. You don't even need to immediately play this. You can think about, is there a bigger move? is there something bigger that's calling out, like, oh, maybe I'm ready to threaten to come in here, I'm ready to threaten to come in here, you know, what else is left on the board that's big. But yeah, for the rest of the moves, all these are endgame moves. I think black tries to fight to live here and fails. But yeah, black kind of lost the game kind of from the start, because even though both players were able to understand were making mistakes in the early game, you can see that for black, the whole part of this group becoming strong in your own area caused a huge downfall, because you were making really, really wide moves. And you have to know that when you make big, wide, efficient moves that you think are efficient, you're gonna have to give up something in that situation. So you always have to remember, okay, if I'm gonna have to give up something in this situation, what am I gonna be doing? What side am I gonna give up? Okay, how am I gonna use this for my future plans, right? You have to plan out your moves. You have to always make sure you can keep track of what group your opponent has that's strong, what groups you have that are strong, what groups you have that are weak, what groups does your opponent have that is weak. If your opponent has a group in your area, you should not allow it to easily be livable and make it have anything at once, because then you can see, just by having this strength, this whole extension that you made has just become terrible, right? Now he has so many ways to like cut you and do all this, and then you don't have a chance against him. So yeah, so mostly my tips for black would be to understand weak and strong groups, and for white would be to maybe also not follow your opponent if they're playing on the sides. Try and just take the corners, and then you can learn to deal with everything in a much easier manner. So yeah.